about your to-do list. Maybe it's written down, or maybe it's just in your mind. Maybe it's kept in your spouse's mind, and they're just going to tell you what to do. I have one thing to tell you, though, about all of those lists. They're broken. That's right, and I'm sorry. We're going to try to fix them, though. Journalist Sarah Sapinski is here. You just penned a piece for the Seattle Times. The headline, Why Your To-Do List is All Wrong and How to Better Manage Your Time. There's the headline right there. So let's start with, what's wrong with my to-do list?
More than you'd expect.
Really?
Yes. When I started doing research for this piece, I thought, like most people, that if you're planning, you're trying to stay organized and productive, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But what I found was that about 60% of people write lists that they have absolutely no hope of finishing by the end of the week.
So just to write a list?
Yeah. So even if you're planning and you're trying, it's really not, the planning is not working out well for most people.
Okay, so we're thinking we're getting things done just by making a list is what it sounds like to me. So how did it get like this?
So our brains, it's baked into the way we think. So our brains very much enjoy the simplicity of black and white thinking. We like to categorize things in that way. So complete versus incomplete is a very attractive concept, and that is reflected in how we make lists. And there's also this misconception that planning is tied to intellect, but it's really more of a skill that needs to be practiced and learned.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what do I do about this? How do I fix my to-do list?
So even though we default to black and white, the solution is really in the gray because that's where it's more realistic. At work, usually your work depends on a lot of collaboration. So you're waiting on a coworker to get back to you with a piece of information, or you're waiting on your boss or a vendor or something, or any number of X factors. So a better way of approaching your to-do list is to write down the progress components of each individual task. So maybe instead of saying, I'm going to get task 1 done, it's, I'm going to have my coworker get back to me by Tuesday so that I can move on to this thing no later than Thursday. So you're breaking them down into individual steps. And that really works because if you don't have the time predictability for each individual component, the chances of hitting your goal is pretty slim anyway.
I like this also because I still do get to check things off
Yes.
my list
You
this
get to
way.
check more things off.
Right, which feels satisfying,
Yes.
like I actually did something, which might make me want to take on more of the things on my list.
Exactly.
So why is this such a good idea to do this and kind of reframe our thinking?
So it's a very subtle difference, but it has a big impact because it's so tough to stay motivated when you feel overwhelmed. And if you end the week already feeling exhausted for Monday, that's going to lead to burnout and feelings of inadequacy. So by doing it this way, you get to acknowledge progress as you go, and you get to sort of exist in the accomplishments, the incremental accomplishments, which allows you to step back from work when you want to without feeling guilty, and it gives you more space to breathe.
I am so guilty of doing all of this stuff. Sometimes I will not accomplish anything on my list, and then it just carries over to the next week, and then the list just gets longer and longer.
And then you feel less motivated
Right.
to do anything at all.
And then it just builds up, and finally I have a day where I just freak out and try
Yep.
to finish everything, and then it starts all over
You need
again.
a sick day or something.
Right, exactly,
like that.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, I love this idea, making progress, noting it as you go along, and not being so black and white.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah, very much for being here.
Thank
we
you.
always appreciate your advice on fixing our to-do list. Bill,
you.
back over to you.